So what we're literally looking for are those blue and black spots to start moving on their own. Now there's going to be blue and black spots primarily throughout the whole video. Granted, we keep somebody's skin tone intact. This is one of my larger groups, obviously. It's going to be easy to keep somebody in view at all times because you want that base of somebody's skin. We're going to be warmer than the 75 degrees that's actually out here. So that's why we want to try to keep somebody's skin in there. So when you take me out of here, because we're going to be moving, this isn't going to be stationary. When you take me out, that orange, red, and yellow goes somewhere else. Okay, so really, you got to try to keep somebody in there at all times. So I'm trying to see where my eyes are popping up of who wants to go with the thermal imaging camera. So was it Matt? So simple device. You're a cameraman all night long.
Okay.
You didn't seem as enthused as I'm sorry, I'm losing name. Tammy, you're the one that put
it just hit something.
So you go around it. That's all you got to do. Okay. So it is a normal cell phone, just with an attachment on the left-hand side for you.
Okay.
The red square means it's recording. If it stops and turns to a circle, let me know, but hit it again, and I just have to splice some video together for you. Not that big of a deal. All right. Let's see, where do we want to go with next? Let's go into my entourage of spirit boxes. So spirit boxes are an interesting tool. Spirit boxes allow us to communicate with the dead. So communication with the dead is key when we're asking questions, right? So we really want to get into how these things work, but I have 3 different styles that are going to be among the group tonight. So this first one is going to sweep through FM radio stations at a very quick rate. On your TV shows and YouTube videos, it's the white noise that you hear, and then Zach Bagans tells you what he thinks he heard in the middle of it. So that's really what we're doing here in real time. We want the radio chatter to come through, though. We literally want to know what the DJs are saying, the song lyrics, and the commercials. That's the key to this particular type of spirit box. It is slowed down because you guys aren't used to listening to this. So with that said, this will record the entire session for us. Just the radio sweep, no outside noise. We won't know what questions are being asked. And it does record even when it's on mute, which is a wonderful thing and the reason why we have it. So it's not going to stay on and running the whole time. I'll say let's go ahead and get those spirit boxes turned up in volume, and that way we can use them in real time, but you will have this full recording back tomorrow morning. You seem super stoked, Miss Angela. So you have one button. It's a volume button at the top. So you're going to control the volume. It's a wheel. So obviously when I'm talking, telling stories, you want to keep the volume down. And you can just see that it's sweeping through the FM radio stations. Yep. And I'm going to work with each one of you guys on your devices as we get into our first location a little bit more in depth. This is a quick, let's get some devices in your hands kind of mentality. Our second spirit box does the exact same thing the first one I said does, goes through all the radio stations. However, it does not record. So I need 2 people, Chris and, I'm sorry, Rachel. You 2 are going to be working together on this guy. So you also have to the side of the ball speaker, you push it up.
You gotta keep the person there at all times. Wrong person.
The same thing while I'm talking, we want to keep it down. Alright, last but not least, the third spirit box is a little tricky. It is also on a cell phone, just like the thermal imaging camera. Come on, open up there. So this one is going to give us a word from time to time in the center of the screen once it starts in that little blue box. And then it's going to save all those terms to a list. You guys get the full list back. So the last group I had 97 terms and phrases pop up. That's actually quite a bit. I get an average of about 60. We're going to clear them out so that way you guys have a fresh start. Now, here's what I'm going to tell you about the list. 80% of it doesn't mean anything. This thing's meant to be a game and a hoax. So it's up to us to find that 5 to 20% based on the stories I'm telling you, a person I'm talking about, a location of where we are, so forth and so on. That's why this is relevant. This is the thing that I go to first because it gives us timestamps for me to look at everything else as well. So, Luis, this is going to go to you, sir.
All right.
You guys don't have anything yet, do you? Yeah. All right. So this is the neuralizer for Men in Black. I'm a movie buff, guys. You're gonna get movie jokes all night long, which means your memories are gonna be erased. What is it really? It's really a grid pen. Ooh, looks like I gotta refresh those batteries. So what's so cool about lasers? We can't see the lasers from the pen to the ground unless something passes through it. So really what we're looking to do here is to capture that moment when something passes through it. We have a second one, as I don't blind myself in the face with it. This one has red squares. Why do we want red squares? So in the event we capture something right here, either on video or with a picture, then I can actually put that in 3D software and give you a full 3D view of the apparition we caught with measurements. So lasers go to the same person because lasers can get Nick in a lot of trouble. So I'm going to go with you on lasers. Lasers always stay down. Pointed down. We don't want to blind any cars. So with the lasers, we obviously need to be able to capture those moments. So I don't normally hand this to teenage kids because they have no idea what the heck it is. But a digital camera. They have no clue. And the funny thing is once I show them how to use it, I usually get about 1,000 pictures back. So go ahead and point one of your lasers down for me. You have a button on the pen, and then there's a little click, there we go. So literally, you're going to be taking pictures through the lasers. I know what they look like down. I want you to go through it because when we capture something, it's probably going to be missed in real time. So it's going to be lots of pictures going through it this way, this way, this way. So that's going to be you. Looks like you two are partners. It has a power button. It will shut off from time to time, and then a big shoot button at the very top. Very simple camera, no flashes. Now you're taking pictures of yourself.
Yeah, he's just looking for the buttons.
Oh, I got you. All right, so now some accompanying items to make sure we're capturing things the way we need to. All right, so you guys have a spirit box. It's usually a two-person job. How do I have this balanced out? All right, so millimeters. Millimeters are very interesting, but this is just a K2. It has just EMF. So the EMF on this is going to measure 3 different types of electromagnetic fields. First one's going to be natural. That's why it's not doing anything. It's just green. The next one's going to be from electronic devices. It'll give us a little bit of a rhythm or a pulse. We don't want that either. We want this thing to go absolutely erratic. We want it to go a little bit crazy. So, with that said, you guys need to know when to stop and ask questions. You're the first person to let us know that something is actually happening.
All right.
Yours is very sensitive. Let's see. Last but not least, I have the multi-tool. So, Tammy,
Yes.
you're going to be helping everybody out.
Okay.
Definitely a multitasker.
So the millimeter measures EMF, just like Patricia's device. So that's the big number at the very top. But the reason why I'm pairing this up with you is because it also measures ambient temperature. That's the bottom number. So in the event, Matt, am I getting the names right?
Yep.
Look at me go. So if he says, Nick, there's a blue spot moving around, I want to be able to find where that blue spot is. That's what this little yellow probe at the top does. But the other thing this guy does is it's also a REM pod. So a REM pod detects motion. I'm going to balance out that EMF. So there's an EMF field being generated around the antenna that I just pulled up. In the event something gets close to it, it'll go off. The closer it gets, the higher the noise goes. Okay, so we don't always use that because it gets pretty annoying in the audio. So when we're not using it, we're going to keep the antenna down. At times, at the first location, I'll show you more about it. But I'll keep this little flap open for you, and that way you can get to the button and turn it on easily.
Okay.
So, all right, lasers. Spirit boxes. Okay, so the reason why I pair spirit boxes up with 2 people is because I like the verification. Even though one of those records, the 2 of you listening is going to be a huge deal. So, all right, we start here for a reason. Normally, again, we're right across the street. Reason for that is because the bar that's down below that dude's house that was complaining to us, that place used to be called Big John's. Has anybody ever been to Charleston before?
No, not me.
First timers for all of you?
I've been.
Second, oh, you have. So you're going to know.
It's been a while, though.
Okay. So, Big John was a football player for the 1947 New York Giants.
Oh, hey, you got the
There
right
you
one.
go.
Yeah, it's up before my time.
So,
A little bit before my time.
so Big John used to sit in the back of the bar on this side, and he would tell the bartender if the cadets that were coming over from the Citadel, if they were age or not to drink. That way they can, stay legal. So one night, 2 guys come in, they're not of age. John tells the bartender, get them out of here. So they leave, pretty mad. They come back the next night and they try to steal the cash register from the front of the bar. John sees this, little bar brawl breaks out. It's John versus the 2 guys. A couple of shots ring out. John gets hit in the neck. Bullet ricochets off of him, goes into the wall. John gets up and he goes to the bar and he says, get me another beer and go get them guys an ambulance. Now, nobody died in that story, right? So what's haunting the place? The bullet hole. It's It's allegedly still there. They're obviously renovating the place, so I'll have to double check once they are actual, you know, they're finished with it. But people that sit in the front of the bar tend to get a little queasy, headache, nauseous, slight symptoms. I bring this up because I don't know how paranormal activity is going to affect any of you. If anybody feels any of those symptoms, I need to know immediately. Again, this is not a scary tour, and I don't say this to scare you. It's a literal health hazard. So, let's not talk about our own health, shall we? The same building behind me, allegedly, we had a big earthquake here in 1886. That part's true. But I don't know if it's completely true or not. This is where the first death occurred. So a piece of the mantle that you see in the middle of the building also goes to the front of the building on East Bay Street. Apparently, due to the earthquake, a piece of that broke off, struck somebody in the head, and killed him. His ghost is said to be seen on East Bay Street. I say all this allegedly because I have no proof. Again, my gimmick to you guys is honesty. I'm never going to lie to you guys. If I know something for sure, I'm going to definitely tell you for sure. So, you guys ready to go ghost hunting?
Yep.
All right, we're going to go this way, away from the front of that guy's house.
You want to piss off the guy with the house.
I better not get slimed.
You might.
You got some activity already on your EMS?
Yeah.
Alright, let's go ahead and turn those spirit boxes down and kind of let me give you the gist of what's happening here. You guys are going to find first off that I love parking lots because that gives us a chance to actually explore. I'm not taking you to just random parking lots so you guys know where to park. These are places that once were or actually hold, paranormal activity. This is a quick place for me to jump around with all of you. It's a quick practice place so we can actually get into the real history. This is what I call the red barn lot. This is where we keep the horses for the carriage rides. The horses are on that end of the barn, and they don't have any glass in their windows. So spirit boxes and lasers. Spirit boxes, you need to be kind of just audible to the two people listening. And lasers, none on this building whatsoever. You will spook those horses. They are still inside. So what's the history of the building? It's very short and simple. This is the same building where we held horses that delivered milk and eggs to the residents of Charleston. Okay, so whenever I tell you a key story, like 1947 New York Giants, milk and eggs, delivery, horses, these are all key words that we're listening for on our spirit boxes or watching for on our spirit boxes. So, again, I'm going to talk about these spirit boxes for just a second before we move on and start exploring. So there's 3 of them out there. This is not TV. This is not somebody here, right? Because if somebody answers no, that means somebody's here. So, again, people forget that. But let's say the 2 noisy spirit boxes we have out there actually come up with the word houses because a real estate commercial decided to chime through. Houses sounds a lot like yes, right? So I don't want anybody getting any false positives. So we're going to stay away from yes and no questions altogether. We're just not going to ask them. There's always a way to reword it. We're going to start you off with something simple. What color is the barn if somebody's here? You're going to listen for the color red, obviously, or look for the color red. But it could also be something that is specifically red. So fire truck, blood, heart. These are all things, when I say them, they're red in your mind. That's what we're looking for. So this is kind of like your level 1 of getting used to what your devices will actually do. Your spirit boxes, I definitely want you guys to be listening in. We're only going to spend about 5 minutes here while I show some extra things on the thermal imaging camera, the millimeter, and then I'll check in with all of you individually, and then we'll move on very quickly to the next spot that actually holds some true history other than some ponies that delivered milk. So I do want to start off with the thermal imaging camera and kind of show you more about that. The spirit box teams, go ahead and start spreading out, listen in, don't get too loud near those ponies. Get something very simple. Lasers. Let me get you guys started. So this is a good spot for you guys to kind of get used to what your lasers will do. So literally you're going to point out one laser at a time or both side by side, and you're just going to be taking pictures from the hip level only. And you're going to literally stand maybe 3 to 5 feet away from her and just take pictures through it. So that way when I'm going through the pictures, I'll see if there's any anomalies popping up tomorrow morning. So you guys aren't always going to see things tonight, unfortunately. But it is necessary for doing a full investigation. That, I don't see a rhythm, so something's hanging out. I want to look at your list here in just a minute. But I want to work with Matt on his thermal imaging because he has a lot going on there that he doesn't know about yet. So with that, we're kind of in the middle of a tree. Normally I say try to point it at a blank space just so you can kind of see how it bleeds out. But at the next location is where I start showing you some of the evidence I've gathered from that thing. I mean, you're literally just going to be, even when you're just kind of hanging out, I noticed you had it pointed down at the ground. You know, we're all going to be checking out this video for different things. So even if you have it, you know, waist level, just kind of pointed out, that would be great. I know it feels a little funny, but that's actually a construction phone. So dropping it is not going to be a big deal.
Okay. It's just awkward.
Yeah. And that's a new phone for us. Like we had another one, and it just wasn't working out. Like it just started getting a little faulty with the videos. So I did get this one. It has that protective case on the outside built onto it. So I was like, let me try this constructive version and kind of see if it does any better. I've only had, I think it's the third time I've had it out. So you're going to let me know as the night goes on if it's uncomfortable or whatever. And you guys feel free to swap with anybody else in your group.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you guys are within your group. I know there's COVID stuff going on and it's easing up, but...
We're not worried about that.
Yeah. Well, you can see most everybody's unmasked kind of thing. So with yours, go ahead and pull the antenna up first. And then on the back, there's two little buttons. The one on your left-hand side, you want to push it in all the way until it clicks, and you'll see a little light flash. Yep. There you go. So literally, you have another way of communicating, and something that's close to it. I'm sorry, I was trying not to flash you because it's really bright. You can use it as a communication piece. If somebody's near you, get close to that, you know, metal rod sticking out of this black box. We never want to use terms that we're using, because we're going to be talking to people from the 17 and 1800s. So you don't want to use terms that they don't know. They have no idea what a millimeter is. It's a black box with a red light.
Right.
That's you jolting it a little bit. Perfect.
Okay.
So here's what happens from there. When the event that you do that, because you jolted it a little bit and you disrupted the EMF field on your own, there's 4 buttons on the right-hand side where your thumb is. Do you see feel them? The very bottom one, if you hold it when it goes crazy, it will balance out that EMF field again. So if it's wonky, it'll just straighten it back up again. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So you.
So I point this at what?
You're not pointing it at anything. You're basically going to be, like with this particular lot, you'll basically make a quick lap, if any, like real slow movements with it. If anything kind of goes and gives you a little flash there, you got something going on. These numbers, the big ones, if they go above 2.5, I get excited. So 2.5 is the first green light that Patricia has on her EMF. So when you start going above it, yours will go past her level. I've seen that spike out at 116. Hers only goes to 25.
Okay, so do I press any buttons while I'm walking around, or
Nope.
just kind of...
Just watch it.
Okay, cool.
That's it. So you guys are, in the event something happens, we have it on video, and we can hear your noisy box.
Okay.
Let me follow up with Louise. Where did they go off to? Looks like the spirit box.
Okay.
Kids got that going on down pretty good.
Walking around.
We should be here.
Who?
Brad.
Oh, he digs us?
Well, he'd be digging the electronics.
Oh, it did go in red. So it does go.
Anybody bring a piece of chalk? And play tic-tac-toe.
Yeah. So,
Tammy's gonna find a horse, one way or another.
Ghost horse. I don't know what I'm supposed to be looking for on this line. This thing is heavy. It's heavy. It's heavy.
You said this didn't have no flash, did it?
Oh, they do have a flash. You probably have it turned off. I've got a digital camera.
I think you said it didn't have no flash.
But usually you can disable them. It does have flashes right there, but it's probably disabled. You try taking a picture with it?
I've took it laser through 4 times.
Let's go learn some road history now.
Let me see it.
Let's go dive into some Charleston stuff. You guys ready? Come on, Angela.
Hey, did Mr. Ed talk to you?
Huh?
Did Mr. Ed talk to you?
It only went to 1.3. It never went anywhere near 2.5.
I was just wondering if Mr. Ed talked to you.
Nope. Did you get anything? No, no laser. Did you do the other laser as well? This thing started climbing up and then it went back down.
That thing is just a proximity thing. I can't remember what you said that thing was.
I thought that it was as well, but even though I was near nothing, it went to 1.3. It was right next to the building. It was at 0.2. So I'm thinking it's not.
It's a proximity sensor, right?
To
See,
what though?
to something and being in front of you.
Well, yeah, but I'm right next to you. It's a 0.
Well, that's me. I'm a 0.
All right. Get everybody out of the entry here. Yeah, well, there's only one exit and entry, and it's right there. Again, I try not to create any ghosts. So if anybody's a picture taker, that is a beautiful moon that we have tonight over the city. Full moon is tomorrow night. In case you guys were wondering, so you won't be able to see that. I can't remember the name of the moon that's going on.
Bloom.
What is it? A bloom?
Bloom or
Yeah.
blood moon.
So I knew there was a I knew.
Like 423 moon.
Yeah, I heard that on NPR today actually. But anyway, so where the heck are we? Welcome to another parking lot. You're probably going, what is this guy doing? So it's a crazy, crazy tour I lead here. So this used to be home to Charles and Eliza Pinckney. So the Pinckney family, they actually had a son named Charles and they had a nephew named Charles. The son and the nephew were signers of our Constitution for South Carolina. So obviously the son was raised here. It's a pretty big deal for us. Nobody talks about this place. No tour will ever take you here because there's nothing to see. It's not a sight to see. But we're going to explore it with our devices. Guys, I will tell you off the top of my head, if I were to have a grand finale location, this is where I get the most activity. So I like to put it at the beginning of the tour, so that way you guys can actually see some things happening. Can I guarantee it? I can't. But let's talk about Eliza. She was way cooler than some politicians. So Eliza married Charles at a very young age. Okay, I'm not going to tell you what that age is. By the way, this is not what color is George Washington's white horse kind of questions like what we did back there at the Red Barn. This is things that you're going to find out through your spirit boxes and hopefully some activity that's going to happen. So what age she was when she got married is up to you to find out. Charles was much older than her, doubled over her natural age. Okay, just so you know what those numbers are relatable to. But she did that because her father over in England thought he was dying and he wanted to see all his kids one last time. And she didn't want to go. So she got married. This is the 1740s. There's no such thing as citizenship yet. This basically said, Dad, I'm staying put. I don't want to come over because I don't think you're going to die this early. So she was right. He didn't die. So he starts sending gifts over from England all the way over here to Charleston. One of those gifts happened to be the plant indigo. You guys have been in town for at least a day. You've probably seen this word several times by now. Indigo is a plant that makes blue dye, that makes our blue jeans blue. That's how we still use it today in some companies. So this was a huge deal because our rice plantations were going downhill. We needed another cash crop to help save not only Charleston and South Carolina, but all 13 colonies that were coming up and about. So this is a huge deal because she started all of these experiments right here. She learned how to keep it cultivated from her servants and slaves that were part of the Gullah culture. Indigo was already here. She just made it profitable. She used Dad's contacts overseas to start selling this stuff. It was already pretty big in France and Italy. She knew what kind of money she could make off of it. So, a couple of odd facts about Eliza I want you guys to explore. Hopefully we get some answers like I do on a monthly basis. You already know about the age thing with her and getting married, but you don't know how old she was when she died. So you can ask anything you want to about her death. How old she was, what did she die from, where did she die, where is she buried, and what U.S. president was a pallbearer at her funeral. It's a pretty big deal. She loves to brag about that. You can ask what happened to the mansion. Obviously, it's not here anymore. So you can ask what happened to the mansion when. That's another year, another number. Numbers don't lie. That's why you go after the specific details on these spirit boxes and your activity boxes. Interesting fact, Eliza was the second wife named Eliza from Charles. So she goes by her maiden name, so she doesn't get confused with the first wife. But they both go by their maiden name, and they both start with the letter L. So, spirit box folks, that's all I'm going to give you on that one. You can ask about the kids, but don't just tread lightly. That's the only thing I'll say. Normally, if there was a tragedy among one of those children that she had, you can ask how many boys, how many girls, what were their names. Don't really go much further than that, just because all activity usually stops. So, I mean, we can all see that Patricia's EMF meter is going absolutely crazy here. They've never done an archaeological dig on this site. It was many, many buildings, but they've never dug underneath the asphalt that we're standing on right now. So, again, there's no reason why that should be going off. And there's some nights I walk in here and that's doing nothing. So, if that gives you any kind of sense of what this lot is like. We are going to stay within the confines of the lot. Lasers can set off car alarms. I don't like to run with 10 people. It's never fun. So just got to be mindful of vehicles and keeping them pointed down. Video cameras and photography, people get weird around their vehicles. So if somebody's coming up to their vehicle, just kind of act casual. And again, that's the only entrance and exit where that Jeep is coming through. So be mindful of that. Spirit boxes, this is really a place for you to explore. I will tell you, the past couple nights we had a gentleman sleeping up by that gate, so just be mindful of that as well. So hopefully I gave you all the heated warnings. I don't see him up there, but just in the event, he does not like our loud spirit boxers. Just kind of like the gentleman with his house above the Big John's bar. So apparently that makes some people angry. So we are going to explore. I'm going to bounce around with all of you. We're going to spend a good 10 minutes here based on the amount of activity. So if we get some activity, I am going to show you that piece of evidence because this is where it occurred, so that way you have a point of reference. And I'm going to start with the two of you and kind of see where things go. Let's get a ton of pictures going out of that thing and get those spirit boxes turned up.
Can I?
Yeah, I can. No. So you have the big button that takes the pictures and then the power button right next to it. Yeah, you got to turn it back on. It'll shut off after about 2 or 3 minutes.
Just turn it back.
Yep, that's all
You
you got to
said
do.
you get excited when this thing goes to 2.5.
2.5 or higher.
It's been at 13.1.
Oh, that's good.
While you're talking, I'm like, this thing is jumping all over
So
the
that's
place.
about mid-range on hers. Just to kind of give you a point.
24.4, 18.6.
Nice, that's good. So that means something's going on here. However, this is also where the servant quarters would have been on that plat of land. I can't prove anything that comes up out of the servants.
What does this thing measure again?
It's measuring electromagnetic fields, ambient temperature, and motion when she turns it on. She hasn't turned it on
I
yet.
haven't done anything with
Yeah.
it. It just keeps going. You told me not to touch the button.
So this is a place where you can turn on that motion detector. So that's the little white button on the back that you pressed in before.
On the left?
On your left. There's 2 buttons. The left one, left device, right one, right
Keep
device.
it pressed in?
At times I'll say let's go ahead and turn it off for now. But when
So
we're in
just-
for here, you definitely want to keep it on. There's always a lot of questions with these devices, which is
Well, yeah, we don't know.
yeah, you don't know them, you've never used them. That's a good sign, because that's not you.
That's not me.
And it does not detect wind. I tested it, I don't know how many times, trying to see like, oh, if the wind blows, it's going to make it go off. But that's not the case. So let me get to that evidence, just so you know kind of.
I wasn't doing anything. It was going all over the place.
So, do me a favor, there's a button above the bottom one that I told you to hit. Hit the one above it. That looks like it's off. Hit it again. Is that little white button clicked all the way in the back?
I'm not touching the white button.
Oh, you shouldn't have to touch it. You just click it all the way in. Okay, now it's all the way in. Good. Yeah, you don't have to hold it.
Oh,
All right, now hit that second button up. Okay, that's about where you want to be. That's the range. So when it clicks over, as you click it, it'll go bigger and bigger and bigger. And we don't want it way out here because that means that a bug flies through it. It's going to pick it up.
right. No, I was touching nothing when it was going up to 24, 25.
Yeah, and you
No,
won't
what's
have
it
to.
doing?
You got something hanging around you because you're not moving. And it stops. That's why that device is so important, because we never know what's going on until we see some of that motion, and hopefully.
It would go from 25 to 0 like immediately, not gradually go down. It's a 15 right now. 6.4.
Yep. And again, that EMF isn't always that high.
Not touching
Where is that folder at? I keep a folder. There they are. So all the pictures that they're taking with the lasers, you guys will have your own separate folder, but all the good stuff goes into what I call an evidence folder. So this is that wall up there in the corner. And let me rewind it. So there's going to be 2 living people walking past the wall.
Okay.
See their heads?
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
orange.
yeah.
So we're going to fast forward, and there's going to be 2 dead people going the opposite way.
Huh?
Right about there.
I can't. Oh, right there.
I
Those.
see them, the cold marks.
Mm-hmm.
The darker.
So when you basically frame by frame it, I mean, there are 2 heads. One's just behind the other one, and you can see them, you know, moving. And again, there was always a person as a point of reference in there, so I know they should have been the same temperature.
Right.
So,
They went on.
and that was taken last June.
Okay.
So definitely wasn't a hoodie weather type mentality where they had clothing on and the clothing looks different, which I'm sure you've already noticed that.
Mm-hmm.
So again, with this kind of location, I mean, the 2 of you should be just kind of moseying along, kind of see what happens. Nice
Okay.
slow video from you, commentary if needed.
So don't touch anything.
Yep, just
let it
kind
do
of
its
see
thing.
what it's doing. See what it's doing. If it goes off, if I'm with somebody else, I'll say, "What was that?" And when I get back to you, like I heard it go off because I'm constantly listening. All right.
Walking, they had no temperature. No more. It went to 2.2 on the other side of that van. It's going crazy.
Yeah, this thing isn't picking up anything.
As far as you can tell, he said you won't be able to see it tonight. right. It's a city on top of a city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like a dork.
12.8, 2.5. Are you pointing that thing at me while you're doing that?
Uh huh.
2.3. It should be picking up images around me then, because it's being observed.
Yeah, I haven't picked up anything.
I mean, this thing's been going crazy.
How you doing in millimeter?
I'm not quite sure what I'm supposed to do with it. I mean, it's going nuts. It goes all the way to 7 something and then goes drops to 0. And
So you're basically telling me that there's something going on here right now. And I'm following up all these spirit boxes because there is something happening. We just don't know what it is until we start getting answers. And we've already heard the
that's
name
why I told
Charlie.
him to go. You've heard the name Charlie?
She heard the name Charlie on her spirit box. And we actually have a few answers on the word list so far. Luis actually asked by accident, "Are you here alone?" And he got the word crowd. He also there was something else on there too that I was like, "Oh, that's definitely relevant." You know, so it's a matter of like, what are those relevant terms to the story I just told?
Right.
So I do want to follow up because theirs is a little harder to hear, so I keep asking them.
Well, and that's why I told him, point your camera at me because there's something here and you're going to catch it.
Yeah. Remember, you get those cold spots, hopefully.
Yeah, so I don't
Everything-
know how am I supposed to help anybody. That's-
Everything
Well,
I've seen
you're
so far is
helping me,
explained.
so I can tell everybody else like what's actually happening. So I just told you about the spirit box Charlie, and I'm kind of like,
And who had that?
that was Angela on the recordable spirit box. So you guys will be able to find that tomorrow morning as well.
Okay.
So I just went over a lot of pictures with them about what they're looking for on the laser lights. So I do want to see what's going on with them because they're the only ones that don't record. So I have
This is been going holistic.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything on this.
No, you wouldn't.
Well,
Right here,
I would,
9.5.
I would think I would see something.
And it just jumps. It was at 25.4. nothing right now. But when it jumps to a high number, and before I even see the number, I get like these goosebumps on my arms. It's weird. I don't know if I'm doing that to myself or what. But right now it's not doing anything. But apparently somebody heard the name Charlotte. And they asked me to take 3.5. Right here. Right here. Take your pictures, take your pictures. Oh, it's 0 now. Get closer to me. Yeah, $500. I wondered if it was interference between the boxes. You know what I mean? Reacting off each other.
I don't see any moving blue blobs anywhere.
Anybody in this thing is going crazy. I mean, it went 22.2, 0. It's like something went past me or something. If this thing is the thing.
I didn't see anything across this.
Well, no, you're not gonna.
Yeah, I should. It's showing. I
No,
should
you're
see
just
a blue.
supposed to be recording.
Well, I am.
2.5.
No, I would see a blue mass moving. I haven't seen any.
Where'd Sharon and Jerry go?
They were over there.
Oh, there they are.
Taking pictures and parking them.
Alright, come on, you two. Let's see what we got on this. Anything else on you guys?
Super particular.
Alright. Battery dead? I pulled this off the charger before I left the house. Yeah.
3.
and it's rechargeable. I can't refill it.
No more
I
pictures
guess,
for
yeah,
you.
I guess you're out of the game.
Well,
I'll collect that from you at the next stop.
we got one.
Okay. All right. So we got a couple of things going on. Luis, where you at? Let me see your list, buddy. So we got a couple of things here. Oh, look at that. We got the word egg from over there. That's good. What I didn't tell you guys is we got the word Republican on here. Charles Coatsworth was a Jeffersonian Republican. Let's go ahead and turn that REM pod off. I feel like I'm talking over it. That's the little white button on the back.
Hey, I
That
ain't
thing's
doing
going,
it.
That thing's going crazy.
It's been going crazy the whole time.
We got the word Republican that's relevant.
We're probably monitoring him.
Exactly.
And I also see the word government, which is pretty vague, but again, it's still, I feel like everything we're getting right now is related to Charles Pinckney. We did hear the name Charlie over there, and then they heard my name is. So it's almost like we have a full sentence. My name is Charlie.
You literally heard it?
Well, it was like a radio. It was like the name is like it was like a radio announcement.
And that's what
the
we
name
want.
is.
Okay.
That's exactly what we want. They actually have a full list of things that they're like typing up that they're going to send to me to see if I can match anything up. So hopefully I can see some things that are in there. So I'm going to give you some answers of the questions that I gave you. I'm not going to leave you guys hanging. So Eliza was 22 when she married Charles, who was 45. There was 23 years age difference between them. They did hear the number 23. So again, kind of a stretch, but we're still going to take it. Eliza was 70 when she died. This was 1793. That's a long time to live in the 1700s. She died from breast cancer. Now, Nick, come on. There's no such thing as breast cancer in the late 1700s. We're going off her medical records. So she went to Philadelphia to get treatment, apparently died up there, and that's also where she's buried. Anybody want to take a guess on the president that was the pallbearer? Anybody hear anything? 1793. Washington.
Well, I was just going to say George Washington.
It's George Washington. Now, here's the interesting thing. I told you about 3 Charleses, right? The husband, the son, and the nephew. We have 3 Georges. So I always need that extra clue. I don't get excited about one George coming through. I kind of need something else. So we have George Washington, which terms like Wood and Martha and Apple, those kind of things come up here too. But we also had George, who was her father. Ironically, his name was George Lucas. I'm sure we all know that name, right?
Yeah.
In today's modern day. And the son, who passed away as an infant, was named after the father. So we have George the son as well. He was only days or weeks old. We don't know a specific age on the baby that died. So speaking of children, there were 4 of them, 3 sons, 1 daughter. So George, right, I gave you that name. Charles, we already knew about. Then we had Thomas. And then there was 1 daughter, Harriet. So Harriet likes to come through and tell us about her letters to mom. She married in Horry. Myrtle Beach, just north of here, about 2 hours, is in Horry County. So she married into another prominent family. So there was a lot of letter writing between mom and daughter up in the Myrtle Beach area. It was more Georgetown, but Horry, Georgetown is a very big area. But again, we get a lot of things, ink, letter, paper, those kind of things show up here all the time too. I am excited about Republican. I am excited about Charlie because that's something we can find in the morning and I can give you the audio marker for that. Obviously our EMF and our millimeters were going crazy here, which is a good sign. We got hopefully a good amount of pictures from here since our camera's dead. So it's going to be very interesting. And again, I don't pull this stuff off the chargers until I leave the house at 7:30 to make sure I get down here on time for you guys. So again, it's kind of nuts that that battery drained already. So it's kind of nuts. We'll see what else happens crazy tonight. And I did change the batteries on the one laser, but that's, I do that in the tours anyway, so that's not a big deal. From here, we're going to go up to Lodge Alley. It's about 3.5 blocks from here. Spirit boxes, please keep listening. I want you guys to listen for names. I know you guys have several names already, like you have Dan on yours, but I don't think that's relevant. But I'm not going to tell you what names. Lauren's not relevant either. Oh, I didn't tell you the maiden name, speaking of L names. Eliza Lucas Pinckney, obviously George Lucas, that was the one that planted all the indigo. Eliza Lamb, L-A-M-B, that was the first one. So Lamb and Lucas were the names we were looking for there. Back to Lodge Alley. Listening for names, I'm not going to tell you why or what names they are. I don't like to plant seeds in your head. By the way, you guys all, I did plant a seed in all of your heads, and you guys passed. Why? Because I told you we're not going to be doing the George Washington's white horse thing. In George Washington, I do that on purpose to see who's going to come up with George Washington on the spirit box, and then I have to prove them right or wrong. So again, you guys all passed. Good job, because nobody guessed it. But Lodge Alley is an odd spot. We will not be there long. It's literally a pass-through. You're in Charleston. You need to see some cobblestones, and I do get a little bit of activity there. But again, we'll be kind of passing through it briefly. I'll tell you what it is, and then we're going to move on to our next spot. Questions, comments, concerns about this location? I know, weird spots I'm taking you guys to, but that's the glory of ghost hunting. It's not always pretty. So we're going to go hit some prettier parts of the city. So we're going to go down the sidewalk and up East Bay Street. You guys are like literally SpongeBob. You guys take it all.
So should this thing be on or off?
So put the antenna down in and just let the EMF run. Yeah, you can just leave it the way it is. As long as the EMF is what's already running without the white button. The white button is called the REM pop.
Oh.
I know I'm throwing a lot of initial
No,
stuff
that's
at
okay.
you.
I just don't know what it's doing. I'm just making it all over the place.
I'll tell you, on East Bay Street, I should tell Patricia too, because her EMF either will go nuts. Your big number will probably go a little awry just because the circuit so it's strong enough to make it go off.
Well, I wonder if that's the way
Car turned on.
and it wasn't because it jumped to 24.2. Stragglers. So you seem more way into this than he is. Oh yeah, yeah. He's just like, okay, let's do that. Well, I haven't seen the gadgets, so I'm kind of curious what they all do. But I will tell you, it really jumped when it went towards him.
Really?
Yeah. So like it or not, I think they like you.
Hi.
Like,
Can you please help me? I'm hungry.
Like me.
Can you please help? I'm hungry. Hi.
No, really.
it's nice you guys are here on a weekday and we're not like navigating through all the crowd right now. That's why I was like, I'm sold out tomorrow too. It's kind of like, it didn't even dawn on me Memorial Day weekend's coming. You guys are all here.
I hate to say this, but I need to go to the bathroom. Oh, so can I duck in here?
You can.
Honey, you want to hold this? I'll be there.
Okay. We'll wait right over here. Yeah, normally the candy shop is the only restroom, but their restroom's been broken down for like a week.
Okay. We're gonna go in the graveyard.
Hmm?
You gonna go in the graveyard?
No.
No?
You want to know why?
Why?
If you were dead, is that where you're going to hang out? You're going to be like Eliza and come all the way down here from Philadelphia.
Please help. I'm hungry.
We're going to get close to one.
Okay.
There's a story, of course. There's a legends and lore portion of this where I kind of just throw those extra Charleston stories at you, so you know it's not always all gadgetry all the time. But we're going to get close because it's an interesting story. And do I get stuff from it? Yeah. Just I don't expect it. It's just not a everyday occurrence like the Pinckney Mansion, where I can go there and I know I can probably get something.
Okay.
By the way, I forgot to tell you, that's going to go off on this street because of the parking meters, so you can ignore it. Rachel's listening intently. I love the look of concern. however you guys want to send me the stuff that you're hearing. Text, email, like you'll have my email address at the end of this too, so helpful. Alright. Looks like we're all good.
Sorry about
Welcome
that,
back.
folks.
Oh, you're good. You're good. Yeah. We all gotta go sometime, right?
2.9 to 8.2. I don't know what that's reading.
So it's parking meters, so there's on it.
Oh, yeah. Name of my house.
Oh, is it?
What?
It's high cotton. It's property that her father bought and called the complex high cotton.
Okay.
It's his nickname.
Turn those steer boxes off. This is a quiet area because of the hotel. So again, we're going to be brief here. When we go through the rest of this, we'll all stick to the same side of the car. Normally not a vehicle there, so we're going to be very careful going by. When we crossed over that last crosswalk over by High Cotton, that was actually where the Charlestown Wall used to go up Cumberland Street. I'm going to point it out again when we get closer to it. But we're now inside the original Charlestown walls. This would have been one of the first streets we ever had. The reason why I asked you all to listen for names, we'll get into that once we get to our next location, because I want to give it a little bit more time. This is where people used to live. I have the full list of residents of every person that's ever lived here. So again, the names I commonly get are Benjamin and John. Ironic thing about that is that they both lived here in 1801. They were 2 out of the 5 people that lived here in that time period. So pretty good odds, 2 out of 5 people. So, and it comes up about once a month or so. And the funny thing is there were 4 different Johns that lived here in like an 80-year span. But I always get the last name along with it, which was Johnson. John's last name was Johnson, so John Johnson. I know, a couple chuckles. I gotta throw them in there, right? Make sure you guys are paying attention. So this place is also interesting. The reason why it's called Lodge Alley is because this is where our second Masonic lodge was here in Charlestown. So the Masons used to meet here. Again, that's the word Mason shows up here all the time as well. So you just never know what we're actually going to get while we're here. They did classify the people that lived here as lower class. They found some of their tools and silverware in an archaeological dig. So it was lower class, which makes sense because low tide would have been coming over the wall. Those buildings down there at the end on East Bay Street wouldn't have been there. So lower class people, you know, they're going to put up with that low tide spell because of the cost of living. So I know you're probably thinking of what's going on with the battery then, but all of those houses are turned. They have different front porches. You know, the way that things work. These were little shotgun houses. These 2 buildings that you see weren't here. So this is a very interesting location. This is where I listen to the spirit boxes again for all of those names. And you guys are going to tell me when we get to our next stop if you guys heard anything, because I do want to get us through these. So when we pass through here, guys, we are going to be in a neighborhood. It's definitely a no laser zone. It's definitely a no spirit boxes on kind of zone. So excuse us again, man. So with neighborhoods, tour guides are not allowed to be tour guides. So we're going to be 11 people passing through quickly to our next stop. The next stop is going to be kind of a break for you guys. It's the legends and more portion. I'm going to give you some extra stories from around that particular corner where we're going to be. And we're going to do one last final full investigation like what we did at the Pinkin. Oh, good. That'll help. He's not coming up here. He's going back. Oh, they can turn around. So he's helping us out. But with that said, it is a legends and more. There's a lot that goes on in that corner. I'm going to pretty much rely on your list, please, about what comes up on which stories to tell, because there's literally about 15 of them in that corner. I know most of them, so we'll see what pops up. So, questions, comments about walking on these crazy stones? They're made out of clay.
If the Masons were here, you know, sacrilege, seems to be something related, right?
Still kind of vague, though. I need something a little bit more specific, like Mason. That would be or clay. Clay would make sense, because these are clay bricks. So, I know, it feels like it, doesn't it? All right, we don't have to walk on the side of the car anymore unless you want to pretend.
Center, please.
Some light. There was some open toes back there. Like the Boy Scout that never was.
She's got open toes.
I think there's a couple of them. You have to admit that this is a very interesting field of gadgetry.
Oh, it is.
And
It is. I'm an engineer, so.
oh, completely understand where I'm coming from a scientific point of view.
Pretty much.
But I have to write good fiction.
Right.
The book I'm working on now for my thesis is I'm putting Atlantis in the afterlife.
Atlantis.
Yeah. So it's called Afterlantis. So I mixed the whole legend of Atlantis into, it's not what we think it is, because we can't find it, because it's actually part of the afterlife.
Okay.
So that's the whole point of it. From an engineering standpoint, I'm sure that's not interesting at all. It just dawned on me, like, why am I telling an engineer about that?
Well,
Hey, I enjoy that though, man.
Right.
I'm more into horror. I read Stephen King.
So what? I've been reading King since I was like, and actually that's kind of what inspired all of this. I was probably 11 when I read Pet Cemetery for the first
Okay.
time.
Yeah, I
He
started
has everything
I have.
Hannah ever wrote.
every one of his books.
Nice.
Not all in hardcover, unfortunately, but most of them are.
Stephen King's book club years ago. Almost it was in the 90s. I had a lot of books from there. When I moved down here from Ohio, the ex-wife said I had to keep a lot behind because of the weight of the truck.
Yeah.
Because that's how they were gauging everything. So I left a lot of my hardcovers behind, like boxes and boxes and boxes.
Okay.
Unfortunately, a lot of my Kings were in there.
Yeah.
It was just like I read them all dozens of times.
Right. Right.
So
I got.
this is turned off and it says 2.6.
So the part that you have turned off is the motion part. Everything else is still running.
So this doesn't really mean anything.
It does, but you're on a sidewalk that has parking meters with the ley lines underneath the ground, so I'm not excited about it.
Okay. Well,
It's
'cause
running.
It was going like 26
Yeah,
before
that's the
when it
part.
was on.
Is that a dial tone? Seriously?
Yeah. That's what it sounds like.
Oh, it is.
I've been reading Stephen King since I was.
Flashback.
I've been reading Stephen King since I was 14, when The Shining came out.
Yeah. Hey, good. Did you read the Dr. Sleep?
Oh yeah. Oh,
Did you
Why
see
am I
the
asking
movie?
you?
I've seen the movie about 3 or 4 times.
We actually stopped here, so everybody, you can kind of chill and have a seat for a few minutes. See, you guys came to work, and I'm giving you a break. That's kind of how this goes. All right, let me take a look at your word list real quick.
It's out. It's a good concern.
All right, so some of you asked me about the cemeteries that we actually visit, what graveyards we're going to. First off, I don't normally go to graveyards because I don't get a whole lot of activity there. Because it's just like Eliza Pinckney, she visits her home from Philadelphia because that's where she's buried. So we are near St. Philip Cemetery. I'm sure you guys have seen the big steeple if you've been here for more than a day because it's huge. There are 2 different sides to that, and I'll kind of get into that into a minute. But there's a story up there. Most of the ghost tours will go up there and they'll drag out this story for a long time. I'll give you the gist of it in a very short amount of time. There's a sign right inside the wrought iron gate that says there's no ghost here but the Holy Ghost. And that's because 1888, a young lady died by the name of Sue Howard Hardy 6 days after her stillborn child. 1987, we have a local photographer taking pictures of all of our cemeteries. He captures a full apparition of a woman wearing a shawl and a baby basket next to her. That stuff is like gold to guys like me, right? However, it is cursed. So, women that hold it or handle it even on their cell phones will start to feel the same things I told you about back at Big John's. The queasy, nauseous, headache kind of feelings. Females that are pregnant, not going to have a good pregnancy. At least that's what they say. I'm very superstitious, as I'm sure you all can imagine. I don't show the picture. If something shows up on our spirit boxes based on that story, I always put a heated warning in the link before you click on it. So that way nobody's handling it on their phone by accident. And if somebody had a very good time on their vacation, and then 9 months later you call me because there's complications, I'm not going to be that guy you're going to blame. So I gave you all the warnings. So we did get the word floor. So again, there's lots of stories in this whole corner, and the place we're going to investigate last is that little building over there. But the word floor means something because you guys see the burning gas lamp off in the distance?
Yes.
That's what we call the pirate house. The pirate house, you can't miss it. Somebody lives there. There's a big anchor on the front of it. That is where Blackbeard's men would come off their ships, and they would go have a drink and meet with a few ladies and have somewhere to work. Why do I say work? Because they dug a tunnel from the pirate house 1 block away over to Dock Street Theater, one of the alleged top 10 haunted locations in America. However, do I have activity from there? Not a whole lot, but there is a great story. The word floor comes into play. There was a young lady that worked here at the church. She saw what was going on down at Planters Hotel, which is where Dock Street Theater is now. There's a whorehouse there, a hotel, and a playhouse. The pirates, by the way, when I said work, they would go over to the playhouse and work for a few days in the theater because they could tie really good knots in between bartering with all the locals. Back to our young lady. Her name was Nettie Dickerson. She was past the marrying age of 17. She was 23 years old. Nobody wanted to marry her because she's an old maid. Poor Eliza Pinckney that we talked about, she was 22, remember? Regardless, she sees the whoring going on down there, and she goes down and gets herself a red dress, and she's going to go get herself a job and feel wanted. So she gets down there, she gets the job, she's the best loved girl in the whole place. It's not what she wanted. She doesn't feel wanted. So she used to go up to the 2nd story balcony and ponder about coming back to the church. And one night, the priest down here from St. Philip sees that. He goes down to talk to her. Storm rolls in, lightning strikes the wrought iron banister that she's leaned on, and strikes her dead. very abrupt story, ends quickly. But here's the actual ghost story. They say when you see Nettie Dickerson's ghost, first off, it's in color. If I say somebody saw an apparition or a ghost, you usually think of something white and misty, right? So they say you can see her red dress, and you can see her from the knees up only. Why? Because when we renovated Dock Street Theater, we raised the first floor ceiling. She's walking on the second floor that she knows, so you can only see her from the knees up. It took a nerd like me to figure that out. It wasn't me, somebody else did it, but you can see where my field goes into play. So that's where they really dive into those stories. I am going to tell you about, everybody noticed a very pretty alley that we passed? Did you guys all notice how gorgeous it was down there, nice and peaceful? That's Philadelphia Alley. Philadelphia Alley. Can't go down there because it's residential at the end. I used to take my tours down there and got in a lot of trouble. So, we don't want to get into that story. That used to be called Dueler's Alley. The interesting thing about Dueler's Alley is because the doorway that you see behind you in the wall back there, in the event there was a death, they would bring the loser through that doorway, over this courtyard, over to the cemetery and drop the body. Then they'd go celebrate the winner with a pint. So, yeah, that's kind of how things went back in those days. But we all tell the story of one specific duel. So, Dr. Joseph Brown Ladd, and I give you his full name because it pops up often. He moved down here from Rhode Island because he's supposed to get married to his fiancée, Amanda. Amanda just inherited a bunch of money from her dead parents. So, the attorney that was handling that money said, "You're not getting married yet. Send the doctor over." So he moves to Charleston. The coachman that brought him into town set him up to be robbed and killed. Not a very good start. But somebody walking by, a local, his name was Ralph Isaacs, he sees what's happening and he says, "Let me take you somewhere else." He takes him to 59 Church Street, about a mile from there. Or on Church Street, by the way, obviously because of the giant church. So, takes him to 59 Church Street, all is well. His practice starts to take off, Amanda's moving down soon. He becomes known as the whistling doctor because he whistled all the time. He's a happy guy. These are really split bobs. Got me talking. So, with that said, him and Ralph became friends, but they had to sit in different seats when they went to go see plays together because the doctor was on a different hierarchy. So they talk about these plays on the way home. They're talking about an actress that was in William III from Shakespeare. So I had to remember which play it was. I don't always tell this story, but the doctor loves the new actress, Ralph doesn't. They start arguing. Then it turns into an insult party on the doctor's fiance back home. Obviously, they get pretty pissed at each other and they go their separate ways. Ralph is a local. He calls the paper, puts an ad in the paper about what a disgrace the doctor is to the city of Charleston. He's not one of them, he charges too much, yada, yada, yada. The doctor sees this, rebuttals with, "Let's go to Dueler's Alley." So what happens? They come down, they take their 20 paces, they turn, the doctor points his gun in the air, he shoots. He didn't want to kill his friend. Ralph still has his one shot. He puts it in the kneecap, sorry, you were just in front of me. Puts it in the kneecap of the doctor, so he doesn't die. He doesn't come through the death gate. Instead, his friends pick him up and they carry him home to 59 Church Street. He dies 10 days later, probably from bleeding out. So, they say as you walk through the alley, you can hear the whistles from the doctor and or gunshots. That was a place where everybody's spirit boxes were off and you listen to the audio to see if there was any whistles. Do I have a couple that I can't debunk? Yes. Can I say that they're legitimate? No. Again, I'll never lie to you guys. Have I heard the word whistle come up? Have I had Medicine and Amanda show up on the digital spirit box just 2 weeks ago as I'm telling the story? Do you have something?
No.
No? Okay.
Well, even past.
What does it say? Past?
Past.
Hidden in past. Interesting. It is pretty general, pretty vague.
Will you marry me?
Will you marry me? When?
Yeah, him and that.
Okay. Probably knew I was going to tell that damn story. So, again, I kind of wait for stuff because, again, there's like 15 stories up here. They're all crazy. But we are going to go dive into a female pirate, and hopefully she'll come through for us. This will be our last part of the investigation. There's a lot of twists and turns in this story, and a lot of it has holes in it. What I'm about to tell you is based on my reading of 5 different books of common facts among all 5 books. So, again, lots of holes. You guys will be able to ask whatever you want to when we get to that spirit box portion of this. We won't be able to get laser pictures because that's out of the game. But hopefully, everything else is going to stay in working order and we can continue on with what we actually have. I do get a lot of glitches out of that thermal imaging camera over there too. So, you gotta have to keep an eye on it over there. So once this couple passes us, we're gonna cross the street and go check out that building. Okay, let's go around this way. have a group of 10. I didn't board too many people. That's all the history. Alright, so remember I told you guys that there was two sides of the cemetery? There's an east side, a west side. There's a nice side. So the west side is what they call the east side of the first part. The side we're just sitting on is for native Charleston development. This side is for Christians. 17th vice president John Calvin, very this. They didn't know where he was supposed to go. They weren't sure if he was from here or not. So they moved his sarcophagus several times across the street as they debated it and conferred that he's supposed to be on everybody else's side. So you can't visit this side during the daytime. There are a lot of cemeteries you can visit if you want to. I recommend Unitarian Church. Their graveyard is overgrown on purpose. And then also where Annabelle Lee is buried from the Edgar Allan Poe poem. So it is an unmarked grave. You can find it, good for you. But it is the legend that we have that nobody can find the right grave. So let's talk about the building. The building over there with the crosses on it, those aren't crosses first off. Those are earthquake bolts. So you remember the earthquake I told you guys about at the beginning? In the event that a building gets quaked again, the earthquake bolts run on a turnbuckle. So you can tighten them and the building will straighten itself back up again. The apartment building behind it also has earthquake bolts, but they're much newer. Earthquake bolts don't really work. Okay, so, but the interesting thing about the ones you're looking at are the very first earthquake bolts that Charleston put in. Why? Because that's the oldest government building on the East Coast. That is the gunpowder magazine. It held gunpowder for 7 different wars. Do you guys remember me telling you about the crazy Charlestown Wall, because we were a walled city? This is the street where it came up. So it literally came up Cumberland Street and went about half a block past the powder magazine. It's literally locked into the corner of the Charlestown walls. Because if it were to get attacked by ship, the cannon is going to have a hard time getting through because the walls are 32 inches thick. In the event that it does, it hits the gunpowder and blows it up, it's okay because the roof is filled with sand. So the whole gist of that is that it'll explode the sand up in the air, the sand will drop and put out the fire. It doesn't work either. We had another powder magazine closer to the end of the peninsula, much closer to the water. The sand went up and was unable to put out the fire. So, great idea, but it doesn't work. And you can see that the building is still intact. It's never been attacked before, and the sand is still there from 1712. So we know that because they had to repair some of those shingles in the early 1990s. So, again, relevant information. Now, during the time that this was built, which it took a full decade, 1703 to 1713, 1708 is when our female pirate came to town. She was a young, follow me on this where it gets a little wonky. She moves here from Ireland with her dad and his mistress, who happened to be her mother. They're getting away from his wife. You guys following me on all this? The scorned lady from halfway around the world in the early 1700s? How pissed off was she? So we're just going to say that and put it out there. So she moves here, she's a young lady, she sees the building being finished. Obviously it's something still familiar with her. Today, she becomes a teenager. Pirates start coming through town and passing by as she's doing business for dad because their farm is over in the Georgetown area. He sends her to town all the time. So she falls in love with one of these pirates. His name is James Bonny. Dad doesn't approve because he's a filthy pirate. So what do? They run away. Of course they do. They go to Jamaica, they get married. Anne Cormac becomes Anne Bonny. If you look up famous female pirates, Anne Bonny is usually #1. So Anne Bonny, when she gets down there, realizes that James was not the pirate that she was hoping for. She wanted that kick-ass Captain Jack Sparrow, drunken whatever guy, right? This was not him. This was a privateer. Basically meant he was a spy for the British. He's a coward. So this is not what she wanted. So what does she do? She falls in love with another guy. We're on #2. I'm going to keep tally for you. There's a lot. So guy #2. This guy is the kick-ass Captain Jack Sparrow type. His name is John Rackham, a.k.a. Calico Jack. Calico Jack, much cooler name, much younger guy. He has his own ship. She wants to be part of it. But females curse pirate ships. So he says, you can be part of my crew, but you got to dress like a guy. She's okay with that. Why? Because as a young lady, Dad used to hide her and dress her up as a boy in his attorney apprenticeships to keep her away from his wife. So you kind of see where the cross-dressing thing came into play? She's okay with it. But she's allowed to be a female in Jack's quarters. We're going to call it John Rackham, Calico Jack. So Jack is okay with her being a female in the quarters. This is the new girlfriend. So of course, being a female in there, she gets pregnant. What does Calico Jack do? He drops her off in Cuba. You can't have a pregnant dude on a crew. So he drops her off in Cuba with friends to go have the baby. He says, come back and we'll figure it out from there. She comes back. There's no baby. We have no idea what happened to that baby. She's also dressed like a female. She no longer gives a damn about hiding her gender. This makes Jack mad. So what does she do? She goes down below deck and she starts flirting with the pirate crew that he just captured. So guy number 3, so you guys know. So guy number 3 that she's flirting with reveals her gender as a female, dressed like a guy, to be part of the pirate crew that Calico Jack just captured. So we have 2 females now doing the exact same thing. They obviously become friends. They have quite a bit in common. So she convinces this young lady, whose name was Mary Reed. Sorry, I was about to say Anne Bonny again. Mary Reed and Anne Bonny. So Mary becomes part of the crew. The entire British fleet finds out where they're at and they come in to attack the ship. All the other pirates are too drunk down below deck to come up and fight. So it's literally Anne Bonny and Mary Reed trying to take off the entire British fleet. Obviously they get taken. Now, Calico Jack included. So, as they're being taken, Anne Bonny says something to the tune of, "You should have acted more like a man instead of being taken down like a dog," were her final words to her mother. So, keep in mind, she's also married still to James Bonny. We're getting to that later. But anyway, so all the pirates that got captured were trying to pretty quickly, except for Anne and Mary. They were tried a week later because the Chief Justice, his name was Nicholas Laws, he wanted to see them because they fought back. He wanted to see them separately. So when they get in front of him, they reveal their gender, pull their hair out of their hats and whatever. "We're females. You can't try and hang us." He says, "I don't care. I'm still going to try and hang you." Then they plead their bellies. Both means they were claiming to be pregnant. He doesn't care about that either. He's going to try and hang them after their pregnancy is over, after they give birth. Dad is still here in Charleston. So what's he do? He bails out Anne Bonny, brings her back up here. She remarries, guy number 4, has 4 children, and dies at the age of 84. Why we have such specific facts about this young lady, I have no idea, but we have nothing in between. So when she gets here, some rumors say she went to Virginia and did all of that. Some say she stayed here. We have no idea. So as far as Mary Reed goes, what happened to that poor female pirate? She died from whatever pirates died from in a Jamaican jail. So use your imagination. I'm sure it was bumpy, oozy, and gross, and we'll just kind of take that for what it's worth. That was about a year later. So again, there's a lot of holes in this story, as you can tell. So we're going to get closer to the powder magazine. We're going to definitely turn up those spirit boxes. We're going to see what we can capture out of it. EMFs and millimeters, this is usually a dead zone. So normally we don't have much. So if you do get something out of your EMF, it's something exciting, because that means something for me is going off somewhere else. First person I'm going to follow up with is Luis, because he's got a big old grin on his face like he's got something. But I do want to go through his list to see if any of it actually ties. One of the good questions here that I've been trying to get an answer out of, and I haven't yet, what was the name of Calico Jack's ship? So, Spirit Box people, good luck, have fun, ask whatever questions you want. Let's get closer to the building. Let's go see what we can capture. Let me see your list, sir. No. Hear that thing going off. Yep. So try to balance that out with that button on the right. And let's stand still for a second. See if we can get it. Okay. Let's see if we can get it. Again, it's a dead zone. There's some motion. It doesn't matter that there's no numbers. That's measuring. So you have 3 things in here. Temperature, EMF, and then the motion.
Oh, okay.
So that's why when you said that it's not on, why are the numbers moving? Those 2 things are unrelated.
Oh, okay.
3 different, like I said, I love this thing because it's a multi-tool. It does record stuff, but it's a lot of graphs and all that. So you guys don't want to see that. You want to see video and audio. So with this, it's just a matter of we're getting a little bit.
Somebody before me.
I could probably take the lasers if I'm not going to take pictures. I'm so sorry that the battery died on the camera. But again,
Got the camera.
yeah,
You wanna take it?
Yeah.
take it too. I'm sure he's tired of holding it.
Yeah.
Now that you can't use it. again, but I can't predict when that stuff's going to happen, unfortunately. So the wife bought me cases trying to help me out, and everything has to fit in just
right. Yeah.
She works for Best Buy during the daytime, so it's kind of a, we get our batteries dirt cheap.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That kind of thing. Oh, sorry. Everything has a very specific spot. That dial tone is blowing my mind. I haven't heard that in like, what, 20 years?
Really?
Who uses a dial tone? You don't have a home phone anymore. Most
Yeah.
people don't.
I do.
My folks still do, but that's where the bill collectors go. It's on silent. Yeah, that's a great picture. I use a lot of that for social media. The picture that you can see the church steeple.
Oh yeah.
Fun fact about the steeple, it's actually just a bit off from the earthquake. It's not perfectly 90 degrees up.
Yeah, they said it's a leans left or something like
Is
that.
it lanes left?
I
Does
think
somebody have something more specific?
Well, that's what he told us on the carriage ride this afternoon.
Okay. You probably heard a lot about the earthquake then.
Yeah, we heard a lot of that, and
I know the carriage ride covers that quite a bit.
heard about Calhoun being moved back and forth between the cemeteries.
Laying to the left.
Yeah, leans left. That's what he said. So he's a Democrat. That was it.
Is that the joke?
Yeah, that's what the horse guy said.
No, nice. That's funny. I like it. I'm going to take it.
Yeah.
He said even though the numbers on this don't move,
You want to play with the camera?
that the lights, he said something as you're very close to it.
I'm afraid I'll run it down.
I haven't seen a damn thing on this.
I know, it's pretty quick too.
He said take them.
I got one of those digital cameras, and I always keep a spare battery so you can swap it. They don't last. He's obviously worn it out. But
I take probably
40 seconds. All the parking lot ground.
so I probably got it.
Not much is actually happening so far, so we might be wrapping this up quick.
When I'm in 48, I can hear everything. Oh, I found out the name. Good name.
They couldn't have hurt. I mean, well, I mean, you tighten them up. If it settles, you know. But I'm telling you, gonna pull the end out of it. And look how big they are. There's that big round thread on. You pull it from the wall. They ain't had more since.
What's that?
Earthquake.
Yeah.
It moved up in motion.
This particular one, because he said that for that to do what it's doing, something has to be really close to it. But it's just going all over the place, and it has been the entire time. Right. It's 2.5. I'm like you, I was kind of hoping for a graveyard. So, I mean, and you think that'd be exactly where a spirit might be?
That's what I would do.
Said that. Let him in there.
Oh, they close it at night.
Well, you might want to.
Just keep the vandals out.
Yeah. You're an apparition, baby. You're an apparition.
Yeah, I've heard that before. I get that a lot.
I don't even know what to do with this thing. It's kind of silly.
I haven't seen a damn thing on this.
You getting hit? You getting a bite?
I haven't gotten anything. I mean, everything I've seen on here has been explainable. I mean, I watched a lot of them ghost shows on like History Channel and stuff like that where they use this stuff. It's like, yeah, okay. The spirits are not restless tonight.
Alright, let's gather everybody up. Come on, guys. I'm not really getting much over here. Some nights this place is hopping, other nights Alright, so start collecting these devices. Then you guys can ask me another bunch of questions if you'd like, or I can just direct you back to your cars, whatever you guys want to do. So, I'm going to start by filling this guy up. That thing's going nuts for you, huh?
It's been going nuts the entire
Let me
time.
relieve you of your camera duties, sir. Thank you very much for